welcome back to Susan Dawn Spiritual Connections. Welcome to a brand new Sacred Union Energy Update, where we look at the energies for the Divine Masculine, the Divine Feminine, and the Union Space. Remember to always take these readings for your inner masculine or feminine, for your counterpart connection as it applies, and also looking at the greater global perspective, because what we experience within our twin flame sacred union journeys, what we experience within ourselves, is also reflected in the greater global collective. Okay, so today, first, we have to look at the astrology, because this is really impacting our connections and our sacred union ascension journeys. Pluto has gone retrograde in the sign of Aquarius, and if you have been following us for the past year, we have been talking about Pluto moving out of Capricorn and into Aquarius. We've talked about it in the year ahead channelings over the course of this past year and how important it has been. I'm going to put all these links of interest in the description box, so if you missed anything, you can go ahead and check it out, and I really encourage you guys to check it out, because that energy, those messages are impacting us now. This is what I call cosmic support. Every time we have these big astrological transits, they are essentially cosmic support. And we had big transits in March and April, and we were feeling that movement. We were feeling that momentum. So Pluto in retrograde in Aquarius is no joke. It is, well, we're going to talk about that. So Pluto retrograde in Aquarius is happening from May 4th until October 13th. Pluto is a very slow moving planet, which is why it hung out in Capricorn for so long. But now it's in Aquarius, and things are changing a little bit. But the fact that it's going retrograde means that there are some shakeups. It means that there's a time for reflection. It means that there's a time for us to really, how should I say this? Get our shit together. Really get our shit together, because that's what Pluto is all about. This is going to impact the fixed signs of Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius the most. So take a look at your sun, moon, and rising signs in your birth chart. But it is also going to have an impact on everyone. But those signs are going to feel the impact of this energy perhaps the most. Remember, it all depends on where you are in your own personal journey. It all depends on the work that you have already done, the inner work, any of the shadow work, the clearing work, the healing work, the remembrance work. That's all it is. Where have you already gone into that unconscious or that subconscious to clear that energy? That's what this energy is about. And so let's talk about Pluto for a second. Pluto is the god of the underworld. It is anything that's hidden in the subconscious. It is transformation so that nothing returns to what it was before. You are transforming literally from the inside out, and that can feel a little bit scary. Transformation and change can always feel a little bit scary, especially if we are one version of ourselves and we've been so accustomed to that version of ourselves, and we don't quite know what our life is going to look like in another. But I want you to remember just how powerful you are as a creator. And what's interesting, I'm saying that because as I was asking for a card for before this reading to help guide this reading, the Magician came out. I wasn't quite sure why. He's gonna kind of rule over this reading, it feels like. I was reminded that we had done a channeling a couple of months ago, I feel like, where we were talking about how the Divine Masculine is a very powerful energy. The Divine Masculine is a magician, and I can't remember the reading. I know it was a Sacred Union Energy Update. I can't remember which specific one. So if you guys find it, or if you can help me out, just make sure that you put a link for everyone in the comment section. That would really be helpful if you do find it. I can't remember which one, but it was a very powerful reading where the Divine Masculine is a magician, but the magician not in the manipulative, distorted sense, as we know in the tarot the magician can be. The magician can be, in the reverse, very controlling, manipulative. This energy is the alchemist, and we know the Divine Masculine has their own power, their own magic. They are an alchemist too. Both you, Divine Feminines, and the Divine Masculines, you have, how should I say this? You both have powers. You both have and carry spiritual codes. You both have and carry magic. What I've channeled and what I wrote about in my book is that you are the healer warrior and you carry the healer warrior template. Now, because you have both the masculine and the feminine within you, you are, as an individual, both the healer and the warrior. But the feminine carries the codes of the healer. The masculine carries the codes of the warrior. Together, you create the healer warrior template. And that's expressed too within yourself as your union of the masculine and feminine within, but also in your connection. When you come together in connection with your sacred partner, it is a powerful force of nature. And we see that actually in our physical world, in the natural world. The masculine and the feminine dance together all the time. It is a beautiful divine dance that is how the universe, the world, operates in balance. And that's what this is. You see how he is the alchemist? He is the magician here. He is the magic. He carries those codes too, and carries that balance too. So the transformation isn't anything to be afraid of. It's only if you are not in your empowerment. It's only if you are still stuck in repeating cycles of lack or scarcity consciousness. It's only if you are continuing those feedback loops of victimhood. You're meant to recognize how empowering of a creator you are. And this is for both the masculine and the feminine. You are an empowered creator. And we've been using that phrase for the past several months as well. You are an empowered creator. You create your own reality through your imagination, through your mindset, through your beliefs, and through your self-concept or your identity. Who are you identifying with? What beliefs are you identifying with? That energy that you hold, the frequency that you hold, is what informs your physical reality. It doesn't work any other way. Your frequency, your belief system, the energy that you are embodying informs your physical reality. Your physical world and reality is a reflection of you. And so that takes a lot of self-responsibility and accountability. That takes a lot of courage to be able to face yourself and all those shadows and say, I actually did create this. It takes a lot of courage, but that's also the turning point where things begin to change, where you begin to say, hey, if I created that, then I can create this. And that's when we have to allow ourselves to let go of the old versions of ourselves to become the new. But that's where your power lies in who do you want to become? That's the choices that you get to make. And putting it into practice every single day. Being the person and embodying the person that you want to be, that's what creates that new reality. That's what creates that new version of yourself. And so nothing is going to be like what it was. And that can have a little bit of nostalgia. That can feel a little bit bittersweet. But remember, it's not in a negative stance. It's better. You become more of who you are. You become more authentic, more connected to your soul, more aligned with the universe, with the world, with all around you. You become more. And as I'm channeling this, I'm also speaking from experience, having gone through rebirths like we all have, but speaking from experience. You become more. When I was very sick with Lyme disease, I had to go through dark nights of the soul, go through a process of surrender. And I was holding on so tightly to who I was because I couldn't imagine being any other way. I did want life to be different, but I couldn't imagine life being any other way. And as I was going through recovery, I not only began to shift within myself, but I began to stand up more, be an advocate for others more, become that warrior, and become the healer. Now that I'm thinking about it, and when I began my business, that was activating the divine feminine within me, remembering the feminine within me when I had been in a very masculine energy. And now it's that healer warrior that we just talked about. And so I couldn't believe that I could become somebody else, somebody new. I'm still the same person that I've always been, but just more of me, more connected, it felt more effortless. And through my ascension journey, that just increased. The more I healed the trauma, the more I shifted my patterns, the more I let go of who I was, all those old conditioned beliefs that may have served me at one point, may have served my life at one point, but it wasn't serving where I wanted to go, who I wanted to become. And so I had to let go of that. And now it's like night and day. I'm still me. I'm just the highest version of me, the highest frequency of me, embodying more of that higher self, more of that wisdom, more of that understanding, more compassion, more joy, definitely more peace. And so that's what I mean about becoming more. You don't lose yourself. It might seem like you're losing yourself in the process, but you don't lose yourself. You lose all of those old beliefs that just don't serve you, those self-beliefs, that self-concept. That's what we mean when we're talking about beliefs. We mean how you're identifying with yourself, what you think about yourself, because other people maybe made you believe something, or from your upbringing, or from societal conditioning. You know, because society's saying this is who you need to be. Well, no, this is who I am. Become more. And that's the transformation. And you can't go back to who you were. And not only that, but you don't want to. When you really integrate all that energy, when you really become, when you really remember, you don't want to go back. So that's what Pluto is all about. Pluto is also a higher octave of Mars, and as we channeled earlier this year, Mars was retrograde. And going direct means that we're ready to take action, we're ready to pursue goals and passion, and those goals and passions are now clear, so that we're now taking steps forward. Mars can also indicate some conflict. Mars is the god of war, and so it could also indicate some conflict. And so you might experience a little bit of that with Pluto, but it feels more internal. There might be some internal battles, and that's what I like to call ego tantrums. When you are going through a shift in consciousness, your ego will absolutely flare, because your ego wants to hold on to the old patterns. Your ego is all about a survival mechanism. That's all it is. It's identifying with past patterns and keeping you comfortable, keeping you in that familiarity. When you align with the soul, when the soul comes online, you're more in tune with yourself, you're more in tune with the universe, and you're beginning to trust yourself more. Rather than the patterns. You're beginning to trust yourself more instead of the patterns. You're beginning to move out of that survival mode, out of that even trauma mode, and beginning to find peace within the soul and listen to the soul. Soul is speaking louder, and you're trusting, believing, and following it as you should. That is the spiritual journey. So when you are in an ego flare, all those old patterns will crop up. Do you really want to change? This is familiar to you. Really want to leave the shelter of what you've known, right? And so it'll feel like you're being tested. It'll feel like you're going back and forth between two different versions of yourself. It'll feel like old patterns coming up, old fears coming up. This is literally, you might experience some anger, some outbursts. This is literally what an ego flare is. It's because you are shifting a consciousness. There's a mindset that's shifting. Basically what's happening is your mind is going, wait, mayday, 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 and soul is going, they're there now. It's going to be okay. They're there. Trust me. I'm trying to guide you. Chill the F out. So there might be some internal conflict as you're going through this transformation, but allow yourself to move through it. Allow yourself to move through it. With Pluto, this means that there is still some self-discovery and personal transformation with regards to your goals, your passions, where you're ready to take action, because you're going to be looking at what is and isn't working. And again, that's old patterns. That's versions of yourself. What is working and what isn't. And that's where you get to empower yourself and make those conscious choices. That's where you get to take action based on what feels right for you, what brings peace, what feels like love versus what feels like old patterns of fear. And you're also looking at what choices need to be evaluated, especially within the heart. Now, Pluto in Aquarius is all about authenticity and community. And again, we've been channeling this for about a year now, maybe a little bit over a year, with both of our 2024 and 2025 year ahead readings. We go really in depth. Again, I really encourage you guys to check that out if you want to just understand the full throttle of how this energy is really supporting your individual ascension, your union, and the collective as a whole, the greater world as a whole, because there's nothing that is not connected here. Everything is interconnected. Your union is not separate from your individual journey. The collective energy is not separate from your union or your individual journey. And that's what I really want you guys to understand. And I feel like you do. You're understanding that there's nothing outside of ourselves that is not already within. So even as we are on the path of union, that union is and always will be within you. You're just reflecting that outside of yourself. That's what we teach within the Higher Heart Academy. That's what we teach in our individual sessions. We help you relieve those blocks that of separation. We help you clear any place where you are creating distance and disconnect from yourself by thinking that union is something outside of yourself, because it isn't. So Aquarius is also where relationships once served the individual, but now it's all about partnership and supporting each other. And on the collective landscape, it's how do we serve both society and self? And so this is looking at the individual mission and how that is helping to serve the collective as well. With Aquarius, there's also a lot of shadow work and confronting the self for greater soul alignment. So you might feel very introspective with regards to this retrograde period with Pluto. But again, that is really asking us to dive deep into the subconscious to really reveal anything that is still hidden, anything that still needs to be seen within the heart space, that is keeping us from authenticity, that is keeping us from each other, that is keeping us from transforming into the versions of ourselves that we want to be. Now, this again is our individual level, union with counterparts and sacred partners, in connection, relationship with each other, and as a whole, the world as a whole. So we do look at that in the year ahead readings with regards to how that's shifting in the world. I also channeled that the phrase, we're rebuilding relationships from the ground up. And that's what this time period between May and October really feels, especially for those who are on the sacred union path of ascension. So twin flames are holding space during this time for each other, especially if you have one of the fixed signs, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, whether you're a masculine or a feminine. If you're doing this deep dive, then your counterpart is holding the space for you for that deep dive, or you're holding the space for each other. This is also going to shift how we experience union. And so, again, there's a lot of healing, a deep renewal that's coming forth here. You might be seeing that already in movement with regards to your counterpart connection, with regards to yourself and how you're feeling about union, how you're viewing union might be changing. You might be experiencing communication and conversations with your counterpart that is deeply healing. Just be mindful of the communication. Make sure that it's coming from a conscious place. Make sure it's coming from a loving place, an honoring place, because that's the version that you want to be. So make sure that you're operating in the version that you want to be, embodying that energy, because the more that you embody who you want to be, the more you're becoming it. It's as it might not always sound so easy or be so easy because of those ego flares, but it is truly as easy as that. Be the person you want to be, and you will become him or her. So this is going to shift everything. And I was just talking to one of my best friends and soul sisters, and I said, you know what? I feel like every day, especially for the past 2 months, since March and April, I feel like so much has been shifting, so much has been clearing. I feel constantly like I'm going through rebirths, and like I'm a different person every single day, in like a good way, in like a higher way. Again, still me, but becoming more and more and more myself, becoming more and more and more the version that I want to be, and seeing that reflected back to me. And it's not just the person that you want to be. It's the person that you truly are. That's what we mean. It's the person that you truly are. You're remembering who you truly are. You're remembering your magic. You're remembering your power. You're remembering your creatorship. That's what we mean. It's not that you're just kind of choosing an outfit. This is who I want to be today. It's truly remembering who you are on the soul level, and that is your ascension journey. That is your homecoming. And so I was talking to my best friend and soul sister, and I said, it literally feels like every day is literally a new day. It literally feels like so much, like yesterday doesn't even matter. It feels there's a neutrality when it comes to the past. It literally feels like we've lived lifetimes in 24 hours, but not with a heaviness, just with a level of awareness. And I said to her, by the end of this year, by the end of 6 months, I feel like we're going to be in a very different place. We were talking about physical manifestations. We were talking about what we're creating, especially in our businesses, because we're business mentors to each other. And I truly feel like by the end of 6 months, our physical worlds are going to be very, very different because of who we are inside, because of who we are embodying, the versions of ourselves that we're embodying. When I mean the version of ourselves, I want to be clear again that it is your truest form. So think about who you are, think about what you want. Are you embodying that person who has it? Are you, if you want relationship, are you anchored into union within yourself? It's not just about envisioning. Are you embodying the feeling of relationship and partnership? And how are you engaging in relationship and partnership, not just with a romantic partner, but with family dynamics, with your children, with your friends, with coworkers, with strangers on the street? What kind of relationship are you engaging with there? If this is about money, if you're trying to manifest money, what is your relationship with money? And how are you practicing practical choices with money? How are you embodying the feeling of having money and being able to sustain that and hold that? And a lot of that is nervous system work, having the capacity to hold that, not out of guilt or fear of that scarcity, that lack, or that victimhood anymore. And that same principles can be applied to jobs, to dreams, to travel, to other goals. It is literally all within how are you identifying? What is your belief about yourself? It's literally all within you. And Pluto in retrograde in Aquarius is truly going to be showing us any of those trigger points, what I like to call the holes, where the holes are. And you're plugging up those energy leaks. You're plugging up those identity leaks. Who I was, who I want to be, who I am embodying now. Okay, so let's get into the reading. All right, I thought we would just use something very easy today, using these energy oracle cards, and just get a foundation for where each energy is. So let's see where the masculine is. Where's the divine masculine right now? What do we need to know for the divine masculine's journey right now? Oh, we have broken heart. But what I'm immediately drawn to is the 9. And the feeling that I'm immediately getting is there's a mending that is happening. Mending of the broken heart. There's a great healing that's happening right now for the masculine. And I feel like a lot of that is coming from a shift in perspective where they might have been ruminating in that broken heart, in that heartache, in that pain. And this doesn't have to be with regards to your connection, divine feminines, although it very well could be. That could play a part. I feel like this is with regards to maybe their life, maybe how things have transpired in their life. For some, I'm getting kind of like a quarter life or midlife crisis kind of energy, where it's like, am I really who I want to be? Did I really spend most of my life or this part of my life in this energy, or making XYZ decisions? And for a lot of masculines, this was expectations that other people had of them where they weren't following their own soul's truth. For others, this was making decisions out of obligations or doing things out of obligation to culture, religion, things like that. For others, this could just be their own decisions that might not have been fully aligned with their heart, but they thought with their mind is what they needed to do. There's a very overthinking kind of energy coming through here. But I do feel like there's a mending that's happening here. A purification kind of energy is also what I'm getting. I feel like there's a lot of guidance and support that is coming through for this masculine. That could be in the form of mentors, like therapy groups, stuff like that. people that are surrounding them. This could be in the form of you, divine feminine, in your holding space, in your support, whether physically or energetically. This is especially in the form of ancestors. This is especially in the form of spirit. I'm hearing the phrase healing hands. And so I feel like there are a lot of, quote, healing hands on the divine masculine at this time. And what I'm also hearing is it's because it is time. It is time for this divine masculine to become and embody who they truly are. It is time for them to grow. It is time for them to evolve. It is time for them to heal, where they might have once kind of been in an avoidant energy. Just seeing, what's that animal? An ostrich that like puts his head in the sand, trying to avoid a lot of that deeper work, trying to avoid confronting their past, confronting their fears, confronting themselves. This really feels like there's a supportive healing energy coming through from spirit and especially ancestors. Healing hands, really, really beautiful energy. We'll get more on the divine masculine in a second, but this feels, it does feel a bit raw. And healing is not easy. It is not easy. It is not easy to confront oneself. It is not easy to feel the full throttle of one's emotions, especially for the divine masculine. And I'm saying especially for the divine masculine, males especially. Physical males especially, although the masculine, again, we all have both masculine and feminine energies within us, so do take it as that resonates, and do take the masculine energy for your inner masculine too if you're a divine feminine or a female. And also, as a quick disclaimer for those who are new, when we're channeling masculine and feminine energies, we're not talking about male or female. There are masculines who are female, there are feminines who are male. It's an energy. However, I'm specifically speaking to males who are core masculine energies. That is your predominant masculine energy. Males have especially been taught to suppress their emotions, to not express themselves. Part of the distortion of the patriarchy, especially, is a distorted way of communication. Don't feel, don't express your emotions, don't be vulnerable, because that's seen as strong. Well, that's the false patriarchy. That's a distorted lens, right? We know that true strength comes from being expressive. True strength comes from being vulnerable. True strength comes from empathy. True strength comes from being able to express yourself. And I'm also getting the word leader. That is what a true leader is. And so I feel like there's a greater collective healing around that as well. Allowing the heart to expand, allowing the heart to open. And that might be where a lot of fear is coming through, because it does take great courage to kind of upend the patriarchy in that way, to do things counter to what we have been conditioned to all of our lives and for centuries. But that's part of the shift that we're making here through our collective ascension journey, and especially in our individual lives. And I always say this, the more you shift within yourself, the more you will literally see that ripple out and impact every dynamic and relationship around you. Sometimes it will be little seeds that are planted. Sometimes it will be in a little nuanced context that you see a shift or a change. And sometimes you will see big shifts and changes in the people around you. But that is all coming from you. And the way that you are engaging, the way that you are shifting within yourself, your belief system, your perspective, your energy that you're holding now, it literally all comes within you, because there is nothing outside of yourself. Everything is reflection of you. And the more of us who are, this is how we change the world, the more of us who are going through that healing journey, it has a greater ripple effect. They once showed to me, I was brought to the astral realms in a reading once, and they showed me pillars of light. And for those of you who were twin flames were together in one pillar of light, but there were thousands and thousands and thousands, maybe even millions, trillions, I don't know, pillars of light. And they were in, it was like a violet flame pillar of light, which meant like it was a lot of purification energy, a lot of healing energy. But what they were showing me was this ripple effect, that the more of us who are in that energy of light, not the spiritual bypassing light, but really in that healing energy, going deep within and shifting your frequency, shifting your energy, shifting your way of doing things to hold more compassion, to hold the energy of unity, to hold the energy of peace. The more people who do this, it has an impact on everyone. Imagine if there is all these threads moving throughout the world, and you are one thread. I always say you're a unique thread in the tapestry of creation, right? That makes up the whole tapestry. Well, imagine you heal and you light up that one thread, and another person heals and lights up that thread. Well, sooner or later, that whole tapestry is going to be lit up. That might be a poor analogy, but work with me here. Work with me. So the whole tapestry is lit up. That's the way it works in the world too. So the more of us who are focused on unity and peace and love and joy and healing, and what they're bringing me to now is our Sacred Circle community. That's the intention behind our Sacred Circle community here on YouTube, where we gather together to hold that intention of unity and peace. We'll channel some collective ascension messages. You guys can bring to the table, bring to the community anything that you want to bring up for prayer or healing or intention. We'll do a group guided meditation. We've done some powerful ones so far. That is how we heal collectively. The more of us who come together, it's the power of prayer. It's the power of intention. It's the power of the unity consciousness and holding that frequency of unity consciousness. You've seen this in global meditations. People who are in that energy of peace and joy, it has an impact. Well, that's what we're doing in the Sacred Circle community, and that's what we do within our individual ascension. Our individual ascension journey impacts the whole. There is nothing that is separate. Everything is interconnected. Everything has a ripple effect. So your choices has a ripple effect. Everything that we do has a ripple effect. Now, for myself, I used to get very caught up in that and very confused because I used to be hyper vigilant of that. And the more that you just embody who you are naturally, it just becomes a very natural point of reference of, hey, this is impacting XYZ. I might not be able to see all the threads. I might not be able to see how far that ripple goes, but I know this is going to have an impact. That kind of energy. So everything has a ripple effect. And I can't remember how we got off on that tangent, but that's the Divine Masculine. Okay, let's see what's going on for the Divine Feminine. What's going on for the Divine Feminine, please? Divine Feminine. Divine Feminine, please. Divine Feminine, we have action, and we have the number 17. 17 has been my number. If you guys watched the return video, I did share that there has been, in my own physical experience, some physical movement with regards to my connection, my union, really seeing that reflected, my own union reflected back in my physical world by unexpectedly seeing and meeting with my divine counterpart. And we will be talking more about that within the Higher Heart Academy. What does it mean when you see your counterpart? How do you hold the energy? How do you sustain union? So make sure that you are joining, because I'll be posting more videos in the Academy this week. Action. They're bringing me back to a long time ago. They're showing me 2018, so it might even be that long ago. 2018 is when I started this YouTube channel and Susan Dawn Spiritual Connections. That's when I first got this deck. This was my very first deck that a friend had gifted to me. I had no intention of ever doing readings. I had no intention of running a third business. I had no intention of channeling. But here we are. When I first got this deck, one of our channelings in the very early days was this card, and how the white horse was representative of the Divine Feminine, and she's just kind of going full throttle, and the black horse was Divine Masculine, and he's a little bit behind her. And we understand this because the Divine Feminine will always experience their ascension first. The Divine Masculine will hold space for her while she's going through her transformation, and it can be ugly. I say that from experience. Man, the gratitude that I have for my masculine, for the way that he held space, In those early days, it was not pretty. It was not pretty, the transformation I was going through. And it isn't, because you're unconscious. And if I were to go through my journey again in this new level of consciousness that I have now, this new way of being that I have now, it'd be a very different scenario. But that's where you forgive your past self. That's where you have compassion for your past self. So, with this energy, the feminine is holding, or the masculine is holding space for the divine feminine. The feminine is a little bit further ahead. She is the one that goes first energetically, because she's bringing down all those codes. There's an activation when you meet your counterpart, and she's bringing down all those codes, all the wisdom. The divine feminine has the blueprint. She can see the whole big picture, and that's where the divine masculine has been like, wait a minute. It's kind of like he slowed up. He was right beside her, and then he slowed up and like reared up, and it's like, nope, slow down. I'm not ready for this. So he is the one that kind of determines how fast or how slow it goes. But she has the full blueprint. And so that can be kind of like a gift. It could also feel like a curse, because having that blueprint of what you two are together, having the blueprint of the journey, having the blueprint of the connection. Now, when I say blueprint, let's be clear, you might not know what twin flames are when you're activated to your ascension. You might not understand the full throttle of this connection, and that's why it's so confusing, because you might still try to apply an old blueprint or an old paradigm of relationships to your connection. So you don't fully understand the full throttle of it unless you're actually experiencing it. That's part of your evolution. Your evolution is a lived experience. But you can see, you have the codes. You can see the power of your connection. You can see the unconditional love that you hold for each other. And that's where you're like, wait a minute, why is my physical reality not matching up? I don't understand why my physical reality is not matching up. Well, I talk more about this in Unity Code, so make sure that you check that book out for all of our teachings on twin flames, sacred partnerships, and what that blueprint is. But the divine feminine at some point has to say, you know what, I can't hold myself back anymore. I can't hold myself into what has become a toxic connection. And it's not toxic because of each other necessarily. It's toxic because you're still operating in the unconscious, and you're just replaying patterns and projecting that onto each other. And so most of the time, it's the divine feminine who has to walk away, and there's a separation that is created. Separation is also a gift. It can feel like a curse. It can feel very painful. It can feel like there is a part of your heart that's being ripped away, right? But it can also bring about it a kind of peace, a kind of relief, because it's an integration. Okay, let me take this time to heal. Let me take this time to grow without being face to face with that mirror, without being face to face with that projection. It's like you're going, I have this analogy where it's like you're going to your separate corners in like a boxing ring. The boxing ring is not a great analogy anymore, but that's what it can feel like. It's like you're going to your separate corners, and then you're coming together, and then you're going to your separate corners, coming together, so that you're not having this knockdown, drag out kind of knockout experience with each other, right? Because that's what damages the connection permanently. When you are in your unconscious state, which is where you were at the beginning of your journey, when you're in your unconscious state, you're just projecting. You're showing each other the mirror. And if you have not gone through your ascension, if you have not gone through your shadow work, if you have not done that inner healing, you will just keep firing off those projections, and it will make you feel defensive. It will make you project more. It will make you it's ugly, and it will permanently damage the connection. And so separation is a gift. Now, I'm especially speaking for those who are either married to their twins or who have been with their twin in the physical. If you have spent the majority of your connection not with your twin, then the separation might look a little bit different, in that you might perceive it as a separation. You might perceive it as, oh, we haven't talked forever, we're not in communication, that means he must not be my twin. Well, my challenge to you is, where is your mindset? Where are you connecting energetically versus looking at the physical to determine whether or not you're in union? Union is something that is always experienced energetically first. It's always felt within. And so for those who are married or who have been in physical partnership with their counterpart, part of the reason why that might have also been difficult is because you're constantly confronted with the evidence, right? And I use that quotes. You're constantly confronted with the old version. Physical manifestation is old energy. What you're seeing in your physical world is a manifestation of a past version of you. It's a past manifestation made real, made tangible in your physical world. But it's old energy. So what are you creating right now in this moment? That's where your point of power is. That's where your point of power will always be. And you can change your physical reality just like that, by the energy that you're holding within and what you're manifesting from that higher frequency in the now moment. And so rather than looking at the physical to determine whether something is or isn't, using that as a barometer, using that as like a yardstick for your journey, go within, keep connecting within. So where was I getting at? So the divine feminine has this blueprint. She can see the full journey, and the more that she goes through her journey, the more clear it becomes, the more she understands in a much more conscious way. And at some point, she is just like, I need to focus on my journey. I need to focus on my healing. I need to focus on my life, rather than giving all of that energy to the counterpart. Because what she was doing when she was giving all that energy to the counterpart was she was neglecting herself, abandoning herself, even rejecting herself. She was leaking her energy when looking outside of herself, trying to create from the physical rather than from within. So it was a very distorted lens. But what she's learned through her evolution is that the counterpart is never separate from her. You're perceiving it as being separate. You're perceiving your masculine as being separate from you, only because you're trying to determine that based on whether or not they're in communication with you, whether or not they're in a romantic relationship with you, whether or not they're XYZ. It all comes from within. It all comes from within. It all comes from your perspective. It all comes from your understanding. It all comes from your self-concept. The more that you honor yourself and focus on your journey, your life, what are you building, what are you creating, your counterpart will literally meet you there. And what we had channeled was, one day you're going to look back and you're going to see your counterpart is right there and always has been. And that's your union. Recognizing that you are and always have been in union. And the message I'm getting now is your counterpart is literally right there. Right there. You've been focused on yourself. You have been, and that doesn't mean that you don't think about them. They're always present with you. But it becomes a very natural occurrence rather than the obsessive state that you might have been in the past. And it's only obsessive because the energy is so big. It is so big. And you truly do experience unconditional love with each other, and that energy is overwhelming. And so part of your journey is kind of that, as you go through your evolution, that energy neutralizes, so that it just feels natural. Your counterpart is naturally there. You're naturally dreaming about them in dream state. You're naturally thinking about them. You're naturally, there might be times when it's more active than usual and they're kind of like front and center in your energy field, but more often than not, they're just there as part of your heart, part of your soul. They are your soul. You're one, right? And so your union is fully established. Your union is remembered within. There's nothing outside of you. It's always part of you, and that's the energy that you connect with now. And so what's happening now is there is action in the physical world, where your physical world is now reflecting the union you have embodied. That's what we mean by embodiment. Embodiment is anchoring into that knowing, anchoring into that belief. It's not even a belief. It's not a hope. It's not a faith. It's just a pure knowing that I am in union, that this is my sacred partner, and that of course he loves me back. Of course he sees me in my light. Of course he's honoring me. Of course, because I'm doing the same for him, because that is what I feel. And I'm going to believe what I feel without doubting that anymore. Of course, we've always loved each other. It's just the trauma and the triggers, that toxicity that was coming up. It was external influences that I was focused on, especially for those of you who might have experienced third parties. If you were focused on the third party and you had a negative perspective of like karmic relationships, then you were continuing in that consciousness loop and creating more separation within yourself. Bring it back to within. Of course, I'm always in union because there is no separation. And sure enough, you're seeing your masculine there. So, action. There is forward momentum in the physical world. Meetups, coffee dates. For some, I just heard breakfast dates. I don't know if that's for somebody's particular, but let me know because that's very cute. Um, you might have letters, emails, comments, actually physically unexpectedly meeting or expectedly meeting, whatever this is, whatever it looks like to you. If you're married to your person, then you can be seeing a shift in them, a change in them. Whatever this is actual physical shifting, an actual physical momentum. Because your partner has always been there. It was just a separation that you both were creating, in the energy field. But that's part of the healing. That's part of the evolution, shifting in that energy. All right, let's see what's going on in the union space. Blossoming abundance. I love that. And 3 is a unity number. So you have that 3 number as the predominant source of energy here. Blossoming abundance, this blossoming evolution, this blossoming energy, this growing energy between you guys, this growing love. And it's just pure abundance. Abundance is an energy that doesn't have to relate to just money. We tend to relate it to money because that's what we think abundance is. But abundance is mindset. Abundance is joy. Abundance is your energy. Abundance is love at its core. And so abundance is gratitude, they just said. So abundance. So being in this energy of abundant is what creates more abundance. Being in the energy of joy creates more joy. Being in the energy of love creates more love. Being in the energy of honoring each other creates more respect and honoring of each other. So it just grows and compounds upon each other. Now, that's where in the past you might have been kind of stuck. There might have been more lack and scarcity. And so the more that you focused on lack and scarcity and victimhood, well, guess what? That's what the physical world is going to respond with, because that's the frequency the universe is responding to. The more that you are in the energy of gratitude and abundance, the more the universe responds to that frequency and delivers. The universe is literally just a server in a restaurant where you place your order. You decide in your heart what it is that you want. And not by denying yourself, not by denying your heart, but really, truly getting clear on what you want in your heart. And then the universe is like, okay, done. And you don't have to go into the kitchen and make sure that they're cooking it up just right. You just trust. You just trust that they're going to deliver it and that you get to enjoy it. You get to just be that creator. You get to just enjoy. So, blossoming abundance. Okay, let's see what else is going on for the divine masculines. All right, let's see what's going on for the masculine, please. Look who just came out, the Emperor. There's a healing of the broken heart. And as he goes through that transformation, he becomes the Emperor. The Emperor, they reminded me, can, in a distorted sense, similar to the Magician, can be cold, callous, controlling. That's not this energy. That was the distortion. That was the distorted masculine. This is the divine masculine. The divine masculine is somebody who is grounded, rooted, somebody who is rooted in their truth, rooted in their authenticity, they're saying. Somebody who is a leader. And I always get called to King Arthur as that leader because he's a pure epitome of leadership, right? He is that king who is empathetic, who is expressive, who is out in the battlefield too, that warrior healer template. This Emperor is also somebody who is stable, who is feels very King of Pentacles energy. And King of Pentacles is my favorite of the deck. Not because of the King of Pentacles often represents money, good with money, good with finances. It's not that. The King of Pentacles represents groundedness, stability within the self. And that's what a divine masculine is. They are consistent in their behavior. They are stable in their energy so that they provide a sense of safety for the feminine. A true divine masculine will always provide a sense of safety for the feminine. And that's the container that the feminine feels safe in. And that's your inner masculine too, divine feminine, where you've had to create that container within yourself of stability, of feeling safe in the world, of feeling safe to be able to be your full divine feminine energy. Well, it's the same in physical partnership and relationship. When you are with somebody, you want to feel at home, you want to feel safe, you want to feel secure. The divine masculine is a protector of the feminine's heart and is able to hold the feminine, not in a controlling way, not in a submissive way where he's forcing her to suppress herself or submit, but she's allowed to be the full throttle of who she is, the full authentic version of herself. She's able to be the wild feminine in the balance of the dark divine feminine, which we've talked about over the past several months, as well as the caring, nurturing mother. And the dark divine feminine is the one who is unapologetically herself. That's the dark divine. She is that Kalima energy. Do not F with me because I have my boundaries, because I have my standards, because I'm not going to hold myself back. But I'm also softness. I'm also compassion. I'm also nurturing. She, the feminine, the divine feminine, is the balance of both. And the divine masculine is able to hold that now. The divine masculine is able to bring about that safety so that she can be the fullness of who she is. She's not a wild, raging river. That's distorted feminine energy, right? Distorted feminine energy is drama and emotional outbursts and unable to contain herself. The divine feminine is deeply, deeply feeling and reverence and honoring of herself. And the masculine is able to hold that. She is the wilderness, but the wilderness is not something to be tamed or contained, but something that is honored. It's a very beautiful energy that's coming through. I feel like this masculine is learning how to, number one, hold that energy for themselves within their own masculine and feminine balance, and also therefore learning how to hold that for the feminine, and also seeing the feminine in a different light than they might have in the past. I feel like this masculine might have compared the divine feminine to other feminine energies in their life. This could be sisters, mothers, other relationships, co-workers, other feminines that were in their life, and I feel like they might have compared the feminine. But the feminine, their feminine, was somebody they had never truly imagined encountering before. And that took them by surprise. That shook them up. They weren't entirely ready for it. At least in their mind, they weren't ready for it. In their soul, they were. They would not have met the feminine. You would not have met each other if you were not ready to be activated. But it shook the ego. Again, the ego is going to throw a temper tantrum. Wait a minute, I don't want to change. And the feminine is always going to initiate the change of for growth in the masculine. It's not about changing who you are as a person. It's about initiating that growth, initiating that evolution. And so the masculine might have been like, wait a minute, you're trying to change me, or this is going too fast. But the feminine, that is what her energy does. She activates because she carries those codes, so she activates those codes. And the masculine is a protector of those codes because he's a protector of the feminine. And the more you come in conscious relationship or connection with your counterpart, the more you come together in sacred union and physical union and sustained sacred partnership, the more you support each other, uplift each other, and the more this beautiful, powerful energy comes into being. We channeled in the very beginning of our channelings here that it's like a cosmic effect. The love, that's the power that we're talking about here. It's not control, it's not distortion, it's not corruption. We're talking about love here. The power that you guys have together in the love that you have, the unconditional love that you have for each other, it creates a cosmic effect. And when you come together, it's like you create a new world, a new universes. It's like a supernova of energy. And that energy just creates a whole new expansive world. That's the ripple effect. But it's coming together in conscious connection, coming together in that divine dance, in that divine love. What's going on for the divine masculine right now? What do we need to know for the divine masculine? Oh my gosh. There's so much love here. This is a love that they might have, again, very stoic. They might have held back. They might have suppressed within themselves. They might have even convinced themselves that it wasn't true. But now it's overflowing because they're healing. They're healing the heartbreak. They're healing the pain, the trauma of the past that might not have anything to do with you, Divine Feminine. They're healing. They're growing. They're evolving. And because of that evolution, they're expanding their capacity to hold that love, and not just hold that love, but feel that love. There's an expansion that's happening here of more love. And love might have been something that was terrifying in the past. Whether you're a male or female, masculine or feminine, when you're confronted with true unconditional love and the absolute light that shines, it can be very confronting. It can be very scary because you've never experienced that before. And what happens if I have that love? Well, that means that I can lose it, right? And that's part of what you're healing. You're healing that separation mindset. Love is never wasted. Love never goes away. Love is always within you. And I feel like this energy is being open to that, leaning into that, taking that leap of faith, finding the courage to take that risk. And we had channeled years ago that it's not a risk, it's just a risk to the ego, right? It's just a risk to the ego that thinks that it is one thing or another. It's just a risk to the ego that thinks that love is in short supply. It's just a risk to the ego that's afraid of that heartbreak again. But that's where they're growing. That's where they're healing. That's where they're learning. And that's where they're expanding. It is a beautiful energy. The other message I'm getting is this is a second chance from the universe. The universe is bringing in this love again. And I'm shown this peace dove in the Eucharist, and it's like bringing peace back into the connection, bringing peace back into their life, bringing peace back into this love, because that is what love is. Love is peaceful. Love is safe. That might not sound so exciting, but love can be an adventure without drama. Love can be an adventure without all of the games and all of the bullshit that we have played in the old paradigm, that we've played in the old energy, in the old world, so to speak, that we were conditioned to believe in, right? True love is peaceful. True love is nurturing. True love is compassionate and empathetic. True love is honoring of each other. True love is safe. And so I feel like there's this second chance. There's this new beginning in love that's opening up for the Divine Masculine. Their heart is expanding. It's beautiful energy. Anything else for the Divine Masculine? We have the Page of Swords and the Knight of Swords. The Page of Swords, I like this energy. The Page of Swords is like incoming communication, and I feel like with the Knight of Swords, which is one of the fastest moving cards in the deck, very, very quick. They might be paying attention to you, Divine Feminines. They might be, there's an observership that's coming through here with this Page of Swords. They might be watching your stories, watching your videos, watching your social media accounts. They might be asking about you to their network of friends, if you have mutual friends or family members. They might just be, if you're, for example, in a relationship with your partner or married with your partner, they might also just be observing you. There's an observership energy, and there's an energy of respect and reverence that's coming true or through. I can't quite articulate this energy. It's an honoring where they might not have been entirely honoring of the feminine in the past because they didn't understand her. They didn't understand the divine feminine, let's put it that way. They didn't understand the true energy of unconditional love. Well, no, let me put it this way. The divine masculine has always understood unconditional love, but they just might have put guards up against it because of, again, past conditioning, fear, ego, etc. So they had a guard up against it. They've always felt it. The masculine is very sensitive. The masculine can be very psychic, even very spiritual, but there was always this kind of block against that because of the past pain, past fears, past etc. And so they didn't quite understand how this divine feminine can come into their life and be such a shining light. Now, where they might have been intimidated by that energy in the past, now it's like they're honoring of that. Now they're seeing much more clearly. And I feel like there's just this quiet observership, this quiet respect, this quiet honoring, this quiet admiration. That's the word I'm trying to get at. Admiration. There's an admiration here. And I feel like that is what is making them want to kind of charge forward, want to kind of move forward. Um, I'm seeing the tower at the bottom of the deck, and the energy that I'm getting is breakthrough. I feel like this is going to be a breakthrough for them, for the connection. I feel like there might be something unexpected still to come. This could be unexpected conversation, unexpected movement, unexpected realization, something internal, but something unexpected that might shake them up. Don't be afraid of the shakeups. The shakeups, the triggers, they are literally meant for you to break through to a new level. That's the shift in consciousness we were talking about. The shifts in consciousness come from the breakthroughs. You can't have the breakthrough unless you have the trigger, unless you have the shakeup, right? And so I feel like there might be something like on the horizon, that they might even be going through right now that's kind of shaking them up, but it's just shaking out the old. That's all the tower is. It's shaking out the old to break them through to the new. We have been channeling this for years. The identity, the version of themselves, relationships, their relationship with money, their relationship with their job, whatever it was built on an old foundation, a faulty foundation. It could not sustain union. It could not sustain themselves. It was not sustainable. And so there were cracks in the foundation. Eventually, that tower fell. Eventually, that foundation crumbled. Well, what this new foundation is, and this has been an ongoing process, what this new foundation is, it is steady, it is stable, it is sturdy, it is rock solid because it is built on love. Not ego, not fears, not the old templates. It is built on love. All right, let's see what's going on for the Divine Feminine. Divine Feminine. Divine Feminine. Divine Feminine, we have the Judgment card. I love the Judgment card because the Judgment card is my call to rise. And I'm getting this energy of Divine Feminine. You are rising to the next level, and you're going to keep rising to that next level because that is your evolution. That is your growth journey. You just keep going. There is no stopping point. You just keep going, and it keeps getting better and better and better. You're getting called to rise and continue to rise. The other message that's coming through is this is my second chance card, my second chance energy. And we've been channeling that your connection might be coming around again. Your union is coming around again, physical union, because you are embodying energetic union within yourself, remembering that union is never separate. You're not ever chasing something outside of yourself. Union is not out there in your counterpart. It's not out there in a romantic relationship or a physical connection. It is literally within you. And because you're embodying that, you know that you are meant for sacred partnership. And so it could be, we've been saying this for a while, it could be that it's the counterpart that activated you that is coming back around again in a new version of themselves, having gone through their own ascension and transformation. So they've been evolving too, just as you have. It could be that there is a new counterpart that's coming in, a new sacred partner that's coming in to match your alignment. However that resonates with you, take it as it resonates with you. If that triggers you, look at where the triggers are. What is it showing you about what you believe about your connection, what you believe about union? See where the separation still is. And if you'd like to work with me one-on-one, we can definitely work through any of those blocks regarding separation. Where is separation still active within you? This is a second chance. So when your counterpart comes back in, comes around again, so when your counterpart comes around again, it's going to feel new. It's going to feel like you're back to the beginning when you had that activation, when you first met, when you had that soul recognition, when you were activated to your ascension journey, but you have all the wisdom now. You're in a much more conscious state. Back then you were in the unconscious state. You didn't know what you didn't know, and that's where you have to have compassion for yourself. You were in an unconscious state where you were still trying to apply those old templates, those old relationship blueprints, right? So now you're in a new energy where you understand the journey, you understand yourself better. You have boundaries where you were once abandoning yourself. You have higher standards where you were once rejecting or neglecting yourself. you have done so much inner growth and so much inner healing, and your connection, whoever that might be, your sacred partnership is now going to reflect that, because now you're aligned with a different energy. You're aligned with a different energy, a higher frequency. And so, as I experienced, it might feel like there's a lot of history between you, but at the same time, it's like there's not at all. Let me put it this way, there might be a lot of history between you and your counterpart, but at the same time, it's going to feel very new. It's going to feel very sacred. It's going to feel even somewhat neutral. And when I say the word neutral, I just mean like all that history was lifetimes ago. All of that was an old version of yourself, an old version of them, an old version of your connection, and now it's going to have a chance to be something new, to be what it was always meant to be, without the toxicity, without the trauma, without the triggers, because you're operating in a much more conscious way. And again, it might take some time to navigate, to come together and kind of recalibrate those energies. But the more you heal together with the intention of supporting each other, with the intention of love versus any in and out energy, hot and cold energy, the more that union is able to be sustained, because you're both approaching it from a place of interdependence, from a place of conscious connection, and from a place of connecting with your heart space, connecting to each other in the heart, which is just love. So again, we're going to do some more teachings within the Higher Heart Academy about how to navigate inner union, becoming manifest in the physical. Let's see what else is going on for the Divine Feminine. Yeah, justice. This justice card, number one, justice is always about balance, and that's a union energy in and of itself. But this justice feels like justice, like almost like justice for everything you've been through. It's like this is the reward. The universe does not reward. It's not a punishment and reward system. Karma is not a punishment and a reward system. It is simply a direct reflection of your energy that you're holding. And so because you're in alignment, that's where it's going to feel like justice. That's where it's going to feel like you're being rewarded, because of the energy that you're holding. But you're literally just manifesting from this new energy. You're just manifesting in a higher frequency, in a higher alignment. But that's what this feels like. It's just, I don't have another word for this. It just feels like justice. Like, yeah, okay. This is what I've always felt. This is what I've always known. And now it's being made manifest. What do we need to know for the Divine Feminine? Look at all the major arcanas here too. The Emperor, we have Judgment, Justice, the Tower. Even the Ace of Cups feels like a major arcana in this instance too. So this is major events that are happening here. Yeah, look, everything being made manifest. Your ships are coming in. You're literally manifesting. This is part of the action, part of the movement. You're literally manifesting. And manifesting does not mean doing the scripting and the affirmations and all the techniques. That's an old version of you. When you get to this, what I call the higher heart ascension in your spiritual journey, manifesting becomes a natural part of you, because you're embodying the energy now. So that what you're doing is you're literally just creating, and you get to play in that creation. One of my favorite sayings is, it's done. Whatever I desire, it's done. I don't have to go into the kitchen and make sure that they're cooking it to my liking. I literally put in my order with the universe. I admitted what's in my heart. I held that energy without denying it. And so now I just get to play in the expansiveness. I get to have fun in the doneness. I get to just live my life and know that it's literally done. And God, the universe, is going to literally bring it to me in the best way that it knows how. And I will not be disappointed, because God has my back. Fated events at the bottom of the deck too. This is all movement. Everything is moving. You're meant to just anchor into your knowing. Don't check on the order. Don't check on, is it happening? Don't check in on your counterpart. Don't use the physical world as a barometer for is or isn't it happening. Keep connecting inwards. Keep connecting to your heart, and just know you don't have to do anything. You're not jumping into the water to meet the ship. Right? Like, that's ludicrous. You're not jumping to the water and saying, hey, I see you. Let me go meet you and jump into the water and swim out to you. No, you're literally just being in your energy. I feel like, oh, this is Two of Wands, not Three of Wands, but same energy. Like, this is you literally manifesting. This is you literally manifesting. So It's just such a fun, Spirit's almost like having fun with us. It's like just a fun energy. Like, just have fun. Have fun in this energy. Your union is meant to be fun and loving and joyful. Your life is meant to be fun and loving and joyful. Your spiritual connection and spiritual ascension, your spiritual journey is meant to be fun and loving and joyful. That's the adventure. That's the adventure. Your soul has the roadmap. You can trust yourself now. And it's happening very quickly. Very quickly. Lots of success for this new beginning. And there is the Lovers. And there is my favorite, the King of Pentacles. All right. What I wanted to do to end this is, I know a little bit longer, I just wanted to get one of these love story cards. I haven't used this in a while. I want to see how you're actually feeling about each other. Just kind of take a sneaky peek. How is the masculine feeling about the feminine right now? She is his liberation, and he is finally beginning to understand that by following her guidance, following her insight, her intuition, her energy, she's a lighthouse, but she's more than a lighthouse. She's literally a portal. She, in her expansive nature, she in her heart, in her love that she holds, is a portal. And so this could be the inner feminine or the counterpart, which, remember, the two are not separate. And so she has literally held the keys for him and has held space for him to understand and recognize this. And now that he's recognizing this, this is his freedom. And when he tunes into that love, when he tunes into the energy of the connection in the heart space, not in the mind, he recognizes that liberation. He recognizes that freedom. He recognizes that love is expansive. Love is liberation. Love is freedom. He might have had experiences in the past where love felt like a cage, where love felt like he was trapped, where love felt dangerous. But it was only dangerous to the ego that was repeating patterns, or that was afraid of a pattern repeating. True love, feminine love, the divine feminine love is this expansive energy. And that expansive energy is in and of itself a liberation. Communication at the bottom of the deck. How is the feminine feeling about the masculine? How is the feminine feeling about the masculine? How's the feminine feeling about the masculine? Open up. Open up. I feel like the door to her heart might have felt closed. I'm getting a couple messages here, so bear with me. The door to her heart might have felt closed. In one message, it might have been closed to other people, where she was just holding space for the masculine and what was in her heart. It might have been closed and guarded to this masculine as she was healing, as she was growing, not engaging in that old version and the toxic version. So I feel like what's happening now is there's an expansion. You see all these bushes, this foliage blossoming, right? That's what this feels like. It feels like spring. It feels like opening up again. And I feel like that's what's happening here. And I feel like the more that you open up to each other, the more it has a chance to grow. Love has a chance to grow. Connection has a chance to grow. I want to say, for those of you who are connecting with counterparts again, don't rush it. Take it slow. Enjoy the journey of the unfolding. The energy when you first met and were activated was very intense. And especially for the divine feminines, you felt that love that you've carried with you across lifetimes. And so it might have felt rushed. Well, now you understand that everything is right on time, that there is no need to rush. There is no separation. There is no loss that you might have experienced in past lifetimes together. You're not separate. That was the template that you were healing. You were healing the fear of that separation that you experienced with each other. But that was an illusion. You were never, ever separate. It was just your soul's ego, I guess you can say, in a strange context. It was the soul's fear, maybe not even the soul's. It was the fear of past lifetimes repeating, of that separation repeating. Well, now you're remembering that you've always been in union across space and time. Across space and time. We just did channeling about the movie Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Is that red thread of fate across space and time, across memory, you will always meet each other. That phrase, meet me in Montauk, you'll always meet each other when you're meant to, where you're meant to. Um, you'll always find your way back to each other. That's what this feels like. It feels like opening back up to what has always been within the heart space. And I'm getting called to pull a union card too. What do we need to know for the union between the two? What do we need to know? Daydream. And I feel like this is the two of you. I feel like you are both I knew this card was going to come out. Bottom of the deck is true love. I feel like you two are dreaming about each other, thinking about each other, maybe even having dream states about each other, but this is more than a fantasy. This is true love. And I feel like you're beginning to understand this. True love is a 3 number, that unity energy. Daydream is an 11 number. 1111 is that twin flame code. So I do feel like this is more than fantasy. This is more than a daydream. And now it's about bringing that into the physical, into that sustained union, but holding that space in your heart, recognizing that across space and time, it has always been true love. Okay, that is going to be it for today. Leave me a comment. Let me know how this resonates for you. I am sending you all so much love, so much light, and we'll be back with a new Sacred Union energy update very soon.